On behalf of Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research and Bharat Institute of Law, I welcome you all to this video presentation. The course name Law of Contract 1 with code U18 PCGL 101. The topic Essentials of a Valid Contract by N. Ramanathan, Assistant Professor, Bharat Institute of Law, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. Now we have to study about the law of contract, and the particular topic is the essentials of a valid contract. When we are studying about the law of contract, it is governed under the Indian Contract Act 1872. Before going into the law of contract and essentials of a valid contract, we need to have a basic understanding that law of contract is a part of business law or commercial law or mercantile law, which means that the law of contract is applicable to all commercial and business transactions. Whenever there is a commercial transactions happening, there is an underlying contract. Only when there is a contract, there is a commercial transaction. Or behind any commercial transaction, there is a contract. So the law of contract provides the systematic manner, the legal manner, how a contractual obligations under the contract law is created and performed. If we make it very simple, under Section 2, Clause H of the Indian Contract Act 1872, a contract is defined as an agreement enforceable by law. There are two parts. One is an agreement and another one is enforceable by law. First, let us proceed to see what is an agreement. In any commercial transactions, we know there may be buying and selling of any goods, whichever goods legally permitted to be traded, whatever may be the goods. So there may be a buying by one person and selling by another person the same goods. One person is buying a goods, another person is selling that goods to the buyer. So both the parties, buyer and seller, they are making an agreement to buy or sell the goods, and eventually they are buying or selling the goods. Or it may be a property. There may be a buyer, there may be a seller, same property. One person is buying that property, another person is selling that property. There is an agreement between them to buy the property, eventually by the other person to sell the property to him. Or it may be a services also, providing of any services also. For example, in the case of banking, a customer is depositing money in the bank and withdrawing from the bank. And also he is availing various banking services provided by the bankers. So there is an agreement between both the parties to provide the banking services to the customer. Similarly, when a person is taking an insurance policy, it is an agreement, it is a contract. So the insurance company and the policy holder, they are entering into a contract of insurance. Similarly, a transport company is providing transport services to its customers. In all these commercial transactions, there is an agreement between the parties. As per the definition, we come to the conclusion that the agreement or a contract consists of two different parts. One is an agreement, other one is enforceable by law. So when we talk about what are all the essentials for a valid contract, we need to study these two things. First, what is an agreement? how an agreement is created between the two parties, minimum two parties, and what will be other conditions to be complied so that it becomes enforceable by law. So when we go before the court of law, the court will take cognizance of this agreement and will say, okay, we will enforce the agreement by legal process. So all contracts are agreement, but all agreements are not contract. The idea here is when we are saying all contracts, which means that it is already an agreement and it is also enforceable by law. By way of definition, we are saying any contract is an agreement enforceable by law. So which means that all contracts are agreements. But the vice versa, it is not so. All agreements are not contract because the condition is that if they are enforceable by law, it becomes a contract. Otherwise, it becomes void agreement. It is not a contract. So all agreements are not contract because some agreements may not be enforceable in a court of law. Then it is not a contract. To understand the valid contract, the essentials conditions required to create a valid contract, we need to refer to Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act 1872, where the conditions are very clear. All agreements are contract if, only if, they are made by free consent of parties. So there are two parties, they are consenting for the agreement, whatever the terms and conditions, both are giving their consent voluntarily without force by any other person, whether force or some undue influence, influenced by some other person, or by some kind of fraudulent representation. Suppose other one out of two parties, one party is making some fraudulent statement. The second party relies upon that fraudulent statement. Then they are entering into a contract agreement. Then it is not a free consent at all because they are influenced by the fraudulent statement of the other party. So it is not a free consent. The consent given by them is not free, not voluntarily. Something which is not legal, it is influenced them. Then second condition. So it should be there must be two parties, and these two minimum two parties, they must have a free consent to enter into that agreement. Then next very important conditions. They are both the parties are competent to contract. Legally, they are competent to contract. When we refer to section 11, the competence of the parties are very clearly stated. That is, they must be major person. They should not be minor person. The person above the age of 18 years old. Then they must have the sound mind. Sound mind in the sense that it is legally sound mind. They are not persons of unsound mind. Of course, in the olden days, they may be using the word lunatic, idiotic, etc. Of course, nowadays in modern days, we are not using those words. We use the words that they are incapable of exercising their rational judgment, unsound mind persons. So, sound mind person, when we refer to a person who is a competent person, he must be a major person above the 18 years of old, and he must be a sound mind person, which means he is capable of understanding these commercial transactions and understanding the legal consequences of entering into a contract. Of course, normally every person is presumed to be a person with sound mind. Then there should be a lawful consideration, and the contract must be for a lawful object or purpose. Object or purpose, whatever it may be, and not hereby expressly declared to be void. So, all these conditions to be fulfilled to become a contract. First, there must be an agreement, then the agreement must be having all these elements. all the conditions to be complied. While entering into an agreement, the consent to be given by both the parties, it should be free. It should not be forced by anybody. Second, these parties are competent to contract. The basic condition is they must be major person and they must be with sound mind. Then, in any agreement, there must be a lawful consideration. Of course, we are going to see what is a consideration, what is not a consideration, etc. in subsequent lectures, etc. And with a lawful purpose and not hereby expressly declared void. All these conditions to be satisfied. Now, let us see each and every condition in a basic manner. So when we see what are all the essentials for a valid contract, first one, an offer or proposal by one person, one party. Of course, when we are saying one party, he may be one person, or jointly together, there may be so many persons joining together also. So there is a first to create an agreement. First, there must be an offer or proposal by one party. What is an offer under section defined under section 2A of the Contract Act? It is willingness to do anything. Of course, when we are saying anything, it is only legally permitted act. When we are buying some goods and selling some goods, it is not prohibited goods. It is a permitted goods only. So first sign, when suppose we, for example, we say that there is a property, the property owner is there, he is making an offer to some person, specific person, saying that I am willing to sell this property to you, particularly to a particular person, for 50 lakhs. It is an offer. He is offering his property with clear terms. That is very important. With clear terms, he is saying this is 50 lakhs rupees. For 50 lakhs, I am ready to sell. And the second person, suppose first person is making an offer, I am willing to you, particular person only. He is not making any advertisement. Advertisements are not offers. Advertisements are not offers. When the parties come together and make negotiations, etc., thereafter they are making a clear-cut offer. So after all this advertisement, negotiation, etc., A and B meets, and A says, "I am willing to sell my property for you for 50 lakhs rupees," and the second person says, "Yes, I am accepting." Accepting in the sense he is saying that your offer, all the terms and conditions, I am accepting. That is under section 2B. So what happens when offer is accepted? It becomes a promise. It becomes a promise for both the parties. And here there is an element of consideration also. What is a consideration? Somebody in exchange, something in exchange, some price. Here, there is a property for 50 lakhs rupees. So, A is promising, A is making a promise, offering, and it is accepted by B. So, A is making a promise, I will give the property to you in consideration of 50 lakhs rupees. So, for A's promise to sell the property to B, B is paying 50 lakhs rupees. That is the consideration, exchange price. Similarly, B is promising, I will pay the 50 lakhs rupees. That is his promise. Mutually, it is accepted. For that, what is the consideration? The property to be given by A. That is the consideration. So there is a two promises, mutual promises. Mutually, they are offering. Mutually, they are accepting. The terms and conditions accepted. So one is making a promise. I will give my property to you. Other accepted. Other is giving a promise. Yes, for that I am paying 50 lakhs rupees. Yes, he is accepted. Both the promises accepted. And both these promises become consideration for each other. The promise to sell the property, there is a promise to sell the property by A. Consideration is B's promise to pay the money 50 lakhs rupees. Similarly, it is vice versa. For B's promise to give the 50 lakhs rupees amount, there is a consideration of A is promised to give the property, sell the property. So that is how it makes an agreement, an offer, then it is an acceptance by other person, it becomes a promise, and there is a consideration, mutual promises become mutual consideration also, then automatically it becomes an agreement. So offer and acceptance resulting in a promise, a proposal, when accepted, it becomes a promise under section 2b. Similarly, there is a consideration also. It should be lawful consideration. Any unlawful, whatever unlawful object, unlawful activities, you cannot make it as a consideration. Whatever giving you are giving as a whether it is a money, whether it is a product, whether it is a property, everything should be a legally permitted goods, legally permitted property. The transactions, whatever it may be, it should be legally permitted transactions. If the law says a particular transactions, particular sale of goods is not permitted, we cannot make any contract in that goods, particular goods. That is only illegal contract only, illegal agreement automatically. So there must be a consideration. It is mentioned in section 2D of the Contract Act. Here you find when they are making an agreement with voluntarily coming with a promise, both the parties making a promise with the consideration, mutual consideration. There is always have a legal intention. It is always presumed also in business transactions because persons are having sound mind only. So they know that we are creating a legal relations between two persons. For example, very simple idea. When somebody is buying some goods, seller is selling the goods, there is a legal relationship of buyer and seller. Automatically, there are some legal consequences. Both the buyer and seller, they have some legal duties, legal obligations. Similarly, when there is a transporter and a passenger boarding into a bus and availing the services of transporter, there are two parties, they are created. Between them, there is a legal relationship created, transporter and passenger. Both have the legal duty to perform their promises in a legal manner. So always there is a legal consequences. It is always presumed that whenever a commercial transactions are entered, they know about the legal consequences. Knowingly and voluntarily, they are entering into such kind of agreement. That is very important. So when all these things are present, automatically under section 2E, it is called as an agreement. And in Latin term, it is mentioned as consensus ad idem, which means that both the parties are clear, very clear about same thing in same sense, regarding the same subject property, regarding the price, regarding other terms and conditions. They are agreeing in the same sense of mind without any kind of misunderstanding between them. Then we will see what are the conditions to be complied. There is an agreement, offer, acceptance, consideration, intention to create legal relation that makes an agreement. Now the second part is when it will be enforceable by law. Only when it is an enforceable by law, it becomes a contract. Otherwise, it is not a contract at all. So, what are all the conditions we have seen under section 10? It was referred under section 10. Now, who are all the competent persons? Only persons who are competent, legally competent to enter into a contract, they can only enter into a contract. Other persons, if they are incompetent person and they are entering into a agreement, it is not valid, not legally valid. So parties to the contract are legally capable of contracting. It is mentioned in section 11. There should be a person of majority, which means minimum 18 years of age, and they must have a sound mind, which means that they have a rational mind, practical mind. They know the consequences of entering into a commercial transactions. They understand the legal consequences. For example, if you are entering into a contract and if we are not performing it, then the other party has the right to go before the court of law and enforce the contract against us, including claiming the compensation damages from us. These are all the legal consequences. And the consent, regarding the consent, it must be very genuine consent and free consent between the parties. So they are agreeing with voluntarily agreeing. Under section 4, it is very clearly mentioned the consent becomes free only when it is made without any kind of coercion. Coercion is force. Undue influence, suppose between relations, between one authority to another person, there may be possibility of influence. If they are influencing unduly, making unfairness against the other person, that is not a free consent. Fraud, misrepresentation. When party, other one party is making a fraudulent statement, misrepresenting certain facts, other party believes those things, fraudulent things, misrepresentation, and is giving his consent, then it is also not a free consent. Those are all invalid consent. Then there is no conditions fulfilled. Condition is not at all fulfilled. Undue influence, there are so many examples. Even when there is a spiritual guru and there is a disciple, and the disciple is giving his property to the spiritual guru without any consideration, is gifting the property to the spiritual guru. It is always presumed that there is an undue influence by the spiritual guru on the disciple. The reason being that because of undue influence only, this disciple is giving his property freely to the spiritual guru, not without consideration. He is giving, making a gift of property to the spiritual guru. Normally, in such cases, it is presumed that there is a possibility of undue influence by the spiritual guru on the disciple. Similarly, between husband and wife, there is a possibility of influence. It may be unduly exercised, and they may one person may be taking advantage over the other person. That is not at all permitted under the law. Next one, the object and consideration must be legal only. Object is purpose. The consideration is the price paid. So any kind of illegal agreement you see, any kind of illegal agreement, we can find that there is no proper consideration, which means that the other party is saying that I will do some illegal act, you pay me some money. Some money is legal, but the other party is promising, saying that I will do some illegal activities for you. That is the consideration for giving the money. But that is very illegal. The consideration is illegal. So the agreement is not valid. It is an illegal agreement. The purpose of that agreement also to do some kind of illegal activity, some kind of offense, some kind of maybe even smuggling of products. It may be like that. In that case, the purpose, consideration, etc., are illegal. In such cases, it will not be a contract. The essentials are not fulfilled. Similarly, there are many circumstances, the court are saying that even though it is not prohibited by law, the court are saying that it is against our public interest. It is against the policy of the society, general policy of the society, that will not be encouraged by the court of law. In such cases, the court will say if the purpose of this contract is against public policy, established social policy, it will not be a valid contract. And what are all the agreement not expressly, it should be not expressly declared void. There are many agreements which the contract itself says it is a void agreement. It is not at all enforceable in a court of law. One simple example is under section 30, there is a wagering agreement. Wagering is nothing but gambling, betting, etc. So two persons are making a gambling activity. It is a wagering agreement. Betting activity. They are saying that if something happens, I will give you money. That is not at all connected to them. It is not at all connected to them. For example, there is a game, international game, played by two parties in the international level. People are watching before the TV. They have no interest except some interest in the games. That's all. If the parties in the international game, they are making an agreement, and the winner is getting some money, and the loser, the second person, also getting some money. It is by exercise of their skills. It may be a cricket game, maybe a football game. They are getting prizes, and in cash also they are getting prizes. It is by their exercise of skills. That is a valid agreements. But with the event managers, they are making an agreement, getting the prizes. That is very valid contract because they are exercising their skills and playing and getting the money, prize money, etc. But what happens? Somebody sitting before the TV, they are betting with each other. If this A team wins, I will pay money to you. If B team wins, you will pay money. Give me money to you. Like that, they are making a bet. They are not exercising any skill. They are waiting for a chance. And it is not in their, they are not making any mutual promises regarding the game. Regarding the game, it is only the game, whether success or failure, it is only with the players, not with the person watching the movies. It is not in their control, the result of the match. But they are making a betting out of the match. These bettings are gambling on certain activities, whatever activities. It is all called wagering agreement. And under section 30, it is all declared as wagering agreement. All the kinds of wagering agreement declared as void agreement. It is not enforceable before a court of law. So when such a kind of agreement is there, it is not at all a contract. And the terms of the contract, when they're making an offer, acceptance, etc., the terms and conditions should be very clear. It should not be very vague. For example, there is a property name, they have to mention this is a particular property. And when it is to be performed, the price also they have to mention very clearly. When it has to be performed, whether they are going to sell before 3 months, whether the transaction to be completed before 3 months. Any other terms and conditions are there. All terms and conditions very clearly to be mentioned in the contract. And the agreement is legally capable of performance. It should not be like some kind of imaginary things. If somebody is making an imaginary things which may not be possible at present, then it is not a contract. Suppose somebody says, next month I will bring some gold from Mars, gold from the planet Mars next month itself, and give you, you give me some 10 lakhs rupees. Then it is incapable of performance. It is not at all capable of performance. So like that, there may be some, of course, in some of the cases, there may be a subject property. In these leading cases, we compare understanding. In some cases, there may be a subject property. They are making a contract. It is very valid. But subsequently, what happened? The subject property destroyed by fire, accident, etc. Now, whether it is possible to sell the property, it is not at all possible, legally possible. Of course, practically also, it is not possible to sell the property because the subject matter itself destroyed. Of course, this is referred under section 56 of the Indian Contract Act. It is a legal impossibility. Now, when we are going to see what are all agreements and how they are making in their contract, all the conditions we have seen. When we have seen these conditions, first thing we have seen, it must be an offer. There must be an offer of, suppose there is a buying and selling of goods. Somebody is saying, I am offering to sell the goods to you. Here, The legal idea of offer is different from the idea we are having generally. The generally we are thinking any advertisements for sale of goods, we are thinking or property or services or investment, whatever, we are thinking it is an offer. Sometimes they are saying offer and we are giving a lot of offer to you, fantastic offer to you. But as per law, where whatever may be the media, whether it is newspaper, TV, social media, as per the law, it is only an invitation to you. They are only asking you, please come and make an offer. They are only inviting to you to their shop. It may be an online shop also. So advertisements are not offers. Only when the parties by coming together directly, either face to face or online also. Online social media, they are giving so many advertisements. It is not at all an offer. When you are accessing a particular website and when you are selecting a particular product, then only it becomes an offer. Similarly, when there is a shop, so many goods are displayed with price. It is only some kind of advertisements only, invitation only to everybody. It is not an offer. But when you are going there and selecting a particular product, it becomes an offer. Similarly, you can find so many advertisements regarding investment in mutual funds. In the investment in mutual funds, they are saying this much of returns are expected after 10 years, 15 years. So many advertisements are coming. In reality, it is all subject to market risk. If you go through their advertisement, finally there will be a wording, all the uh, uh, performance statements are subject to market risk. It is a disclaimer made by them. They are claiming that it is all made by, it is all due to the market risk. So there is no guarantee at all whether we are investing directly in a share market or investing through a mutual funds. The market risk are there. The price may increase, the share price may increase, or the share price may fall down also. So whatever their advertisements, it is not an offer. It is only an invitation to you. When you are signing some agreement, the agreement will clearly say that it is only an estimated or expected return that may happen, may not happen. It is not guaranteed. So advertisements, even regarding mutual funds, there is no real offer. They are only inviting you, negotiating with you. So they may be claiming high returns on investments. It is only an estimation, expectation, etc. It is not guaranteed returns. They are not making an offer. Definitely you will get 25%. Definitely you will get. They are not making any kind of. They are giving some calculated things and saying that all calculation based upon market risk only. It may happen, may not happen. So if you are believing those advertisements and investing in some mutual funds, you cannot fix. Afterwards, you will not get the returns. It is all subject to market returns. In the mutual funds company may be also closed because of their failures. You cannot fix any legal responsibility on the advertisers. That is the real legal position. We must be very careful in exercising our choice. Of course, if you find so many advertisements in so many places, they are giving so many such a kind of making such a kind of claim. So many things are false only. Many things are they are overrated only. They are claiming in a high manner, which is not at all practically possible. As if they are giving some oil, hair oil, and this will become like this. A person's hair will be within 1 month or 3 months. They are giving a guaranteed performance. Of course, in the eyes of law, whether it is a real advertisement or false advertisement, it is not at all an offer. When you are actually buying and selling that product only, it becomes an offer. So any advertisement, it is not at all offer. So we must be very careful about it. Then what is an offer under law? then what may be the offer? These advertisements are not offer, only an invitation. We are all going to there, and we have to select the product. We have to satisfy ourselves about the product quality, etc. Then only we are making an offer with the seller. Okay, I'm ready to buy the product. You please sell the product. So when one person signifies to another his willingness to do or abstain from doing anything. So here you find willingness to do anything is stated under section 2A of the Indian Contract Act. But it is very much implied that it is legal act only, legally permitted act only. So I am offering, A is offering to sell a particular property to a particular person B. He is willing to do sell his property to B. It is legally permitted act. And what is his idea with a view to obtaining the assent of the other person? So when he is making an offer, he is expecting that other person will accept or may not accept. Of course, other person may accept or may not accept also. But he is having an idea. A is having an idea. I am willing to sell my property to you. Particular person is making to B for 50 lakhs rupees. So his idea is if B accepts it, we will sell to him. If B is not accepting, he is rejecting, he may accept, he may not accept. If he is rejecting, we will make an offer to another person, any person, other person coming. Like that. So he is making the proposal. A is making the proposal or offer. So when we see the advertisement, they are not making to any particular person. Simply they are advertising, whoever want to see this thing. This may be this will happen, that will happen. But as per law, it is only a advertisement, only inviting you. Once you are going there, they have to make an offer. You have to make an offer. Either it is a face to face or online also. So an offer must be clear, definite. That is very, very important. Certain, unambiguous, complete, and final, whatever it is. Subject for complete and final. You see, when advertisement, they may be giving so many things. But when we are making an online booking, when we are entering and searching for a flight ticket, it may be showing 4,000 rupees. It is an advertisement. All these terms and conditions, they are saying, etc. When we start booking all those things, when we are booked the ticket, and finally when we are going to confirm it, we find that the price is 6 lakhs rupees plus taxes. Initially, when we started negotiate or when we started with the website booking, it is showing it is available for 3,500. But when we are booking, going for the booking, finally, it shows 6,500. At that time only, they are making the clear cut price. So now it is for you to accept it or not to accept it. You cannot say that first it was showing 3,500, etc. It is all process of some kind of advertisement negotiation, etc. When you made a clear cut terms and condition on this date, this time, this flight, this passenger, everything, when you are booking, yes, I'm ready. Now they are making the terms and condition very clear. Seats are available for 6,500 rupees only. Very clear. Now we may accept, we may not accept. So when it is becoming definite and clear, when the subject matter, whether it is a goods, property, services, whether it is a particular flight, particular time, etc., everything is very clear. And the price and any other terms and conditions, particularly regarding time and mode of delivery, payment, etc., everything. In online, we are everything doing in online only through banking services, online banking. So all these terms and conditions are very clear. Then only it is becoming a clear-cut offer, valid offer in the eyes of law, which can be accepted by other persons. Now, just we will have a revision of what we have seen so far. So, law of contract is part of business law. Always in any commercial transactions, buying, selling, whatever may be, services, etc. Law of contract is involved. Contract means it is an agreement enforceable by law. So there are two parts. One is an agreement to buy, sell goods, properties, etc., or to provide some services, etc. So first part is agreement. Second part is there must be some conditions to be fulfilled so that it is becoming enforceable by law. So all the conditions we have seen in a detailed manner on behalf of the institution of Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research and Bharat Institute of Law. I thank you all for attending this video presentation. Thank you very much.